What's up, sneaky people? It's your boy FB Kicks and Gear, and I am back with another video. This time we are doing a very quick legit check guide on the Tiffany X Nike Air Force One. Now, this isn't a shoe that I'm really into. A little quick kind of fact about me: I've been collecting sneakers since the early 2000s, and I've only ever owned one pair of Air Force Ones, and they were the mid tops. They were the all white mid tops. So I'm not an Air Force One fan. I probably like Air Force Ones less than I like Dunks, and I don't like Dunks that much either. Yeah, I know, I'm weird, but all that to say, I know that this is a pretty hype and in-demand shoe, and I will tell you that while I don't have an authentic pair on hand, because this is a replica pair, I have handled the authentic pair, and if there was one Air Force One that I would spend my money on to keep and to rock, it is the Tiffany Air Force One, for a lot of reasons. And without taking up too much time in this video, one of the reasons why is that the quality of that shoe literally speaks for itself. When you think about shoes, or when you talk about shoes in that kind of category, in that luxury high-end category, I think of like the Louis Vuitton trainers, and that's probably the first thing that came to my mind when I picked up the retail pair. There was a weight, a heft that the Tiffany Air Force Ones had that reminded me a lot like the Louis Vuitton trainers, and I love those shoes. The Louis Vuitton trainers are a dope shoe, thick leather, super weighty, a quality shoe, and that's what I felt when I picked up that shoe, and I was like, oh shit, these are pretty dope. So I figured, hey, you know what? While I ponder over the fact of the matter and decide whether or not I want to pick up a retail pair of these, because they're going for a lot, but they're not going for as much as I would think. Some pairs can be found for less than $1,000. So while I think about whether or not I think it's worth it to get a pair of Air Forces, let's do a quick legit checking guide. This is obviously not going to be a super full featured legit checking guide because I only have this replica pair here, but I will give you some pretty quick tips that will allow you to eliminate a lot of fakes from your search if you are looking for an authentic pair. So as always, you will see pictures of this shoe on the account that's going to pop up on the screen right here. So please pay attention to the details that I bring up in this video, because it will definitely save you a ton of money if you are in the market for these shoes. So first things foremost, let's go with the box. And what I'll say about the box pretty quickly is that there's two things that are wrong with the box. The overall appearance is fine, but there should be embossed Tiffany logos all around the bottom of the shoe. I don't remember if it's supposed to be on the lid or not, but I know it's supposed to be on the body of the box, and it's not there at all. This box it's got some kind of indentation on it, but I don't even know if that's just the box from being beat up in transit or whatever, but it's supposed to have Tiffany embossed all the way around. And another thing is that it's supposed to be Tiffany blue, and this is not. This is more of a greenish seafoam color, and that's going to be a theme throughout the entire kind of video, because that is something that, for whatever reason, the rep factories did not replicate perfectly. So that's the box. There's paper in there, and the only thing to say about the paper is that it's entirely too dark, it's entirely too undetailed. It should be a lot more crisp than this, and it shouldn't be as dark as this. And that's pretty much it. So let's just go real quick into the shoes. So here we have the Tiffany Air Force One, and this shoe is predominantly a black Air Force One that has been upgraded with a lot of premium materials. There's a nice suede all the way around. It's got leather inside sock liner. It's got a neoprene tongue with Tiffany branding on the tongue over there. It's got a nice metallic insole with this, what feels like a Dream Cell sole, pretty thick, but so the rep looks good, right? It looks good, but there are definitely a lot of things that you can hone in on to legit check. And the first thing that is pretty easy for me to hone in on was the fact that this feels super light. It feels like a regular Air Force One. I did not feel that when I picked up my friend's retail pair, and their retail pair was about 2 sizes smaller than this. So it's fundamentally a smaller shoe, and it felt heavier, it felt weightier. If you have had experience with a Louis Vuitton trainer, very similar in weight, so pick one of those up and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But the next thing that I feel like is super easy to tell is that this nubuck, the suede nubuck, although it is super soft and feels like good quality, this is definitely not the nubuck that Authentic pairs have. The nubuck on Authentic pairs is a lot more faded. The transition is just different. It is transitionary, but it's a different transitionary nubuck, and it's ashier, it's lighter, and it just doesn't look, this looks like fresh, crisp, dyed black nubuck. That is not what the Authentic pair look like. While this does have some transitionary motion, I would say that the hair's probably a little bit longer on this rip than it is on the Authentic pair. So pay attention to that. You guys can easily look up some videos or some stock images of what they're supposed to look like, and you'll know what I'm talking about. The next thing that probably the easiest thing to notice when you're talking about this shoe is the Tiffany Nike swoosh. And there are 2 issues with this. One, this Tiffany blue should definitely be a lot lighter and more subtle than this super bold, super prominent Nike swoosh. And then the second thing is that placement and shape is a little bit off. This is like your traditional Air Force One swoosh. The Tiffany's look weird. They're clunky, they're chunky, especially at the swoosh end. It looks like they tried to mimic it here, but this looks like a standard Air Force One swoosh, and the Tiffany's definitely don't look like that. And I couldn't really understand why, but it's definitely a different type of swoosh. I will see if I can find an image to kind of put on the screen for you. This is what more standard Air Force Ones look like, and that's not what these are. That's not what they're supposed to be. Now, obviously, it's super subtle. It's not something that's like a huge tell or anything like that. But if you are looking for an Authentic pair, it probably means you're paying around $1,000 for it. And if you're paying $1,000, you gotta know the subtleties. You have to know the subtleties. So, but other than that, it's a similar type of leather, which is super soft and plush, and you see the tumbling on there, and that's usually what Nike likes to do when they want to signal that they're doing something of quality. They throw some tumbled leather in. But other than that, I'll say this, it's definitely a material's pretty good for a replica, but the official versions were just on another level, and you can kind of see that here on the leather accents as well. This is definitely like a thinner, cheaper leather than what the Authentic pairs look like. Obviously, they're just trying to mimic the look of the shoe without mimicking the quality, which would cost more, obviously, but definitely a thinner leather. Not bad, but still thinner, not the same level of quality. And while we're talking about the leather, let's take a look at the back here. More or less, this looks pretty good, but one of the things about the Nike Air on the back is that on Authentic pairs, that Air is significantly thinner in the text for sure, and this is super bold. That embroidery is super thick, so it's usually the small details like that. I'm sure that this being a rep, this silver pendant right here is definitely not to the same quality as the Authentic pair. So just take a look at that, compare it to some photos so you can see the difference. Usually that ends up around that T symbol there. And I'd say the last thing to really point out here that to me really stands out is the thickness of the padding here. On the Authentic pair, it does have a leather liner like this, but the leather is nowhere near as padded as this, puffy as this, and you see more wrinkles, and I don't know, it feels like that. If you guys have ever seen like goat skin leather or anything like something like that, it's soft, it's supple, but it's got grain to it. This just looks like plastic coated leather, pleather, you know, like you usually see. This is definitely not a high quality leather, but definitely something that's pretty easy to look at in my opinion. I'm sure there's more to to look at on the shoe. The lace job, this is not how dead stock pairs come laced. The Tiffany blue won't be this color either. It's usually a lighter, less intense color like this. Here you've got the laces and the metal lace holders. But that's essentially it. There's not really much else to talk about. This is probably I'd say mid to lower tier rep for this shoe, and I don't think there are any high tier reps for this. But with all that said, guys, remember you can see more pictures of the shoe on the account that's about to pop up on the screen. And that's it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.